Welcome, YouTube! This is my most competitive deck, my most successful deck that I've had on ladder. I'm currently ranked Platinum 1. It is Virtual World, as you can probably see from the many different confusing pictures and names on the screen. I'll try to bring it close to you. There are a lot of combos, a lot of intricacies that you can do. I have found great success. The common denominator why this deck isn't necessarily the favorite deck of other people is because it tends to brick. It doesn't happen to me personally, at least not a whole lot. I'm probably gonna brick in this video now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the deck card by card, show you some different cards that you might want to run, that you can run, that you have the possibilities to, and then I'll show you some specific sideboard cards that I like to use that other people's aren't necessarily inclined to use or that aren't as common. Now, if we look at this deck already, we can see there are a few staples in there like Maxx, Ash Blossom, and Infinite Impermanence. In the sideboard, we have the staples of Zeus. VFD isn't necessarily, or True King of All Calamity isn't necessarily a staple, but it is pretty mandatory in this deck to have. Another staple would be Called by the Grave, but that's essentially it. Anything else that you need to run this deck, like at a bare minimum, would be Shenshen, who is a UR, and that's, again, already it. Other cards that you frequently go into is the Stardust Charge Warrior, the Ravenous Crocodragon, and the Vermillion Mech. If from the XYZ package, you probably want number 39 Utopia and World Phoenix Fan, simply to have a few outs to deal with some of your opponent's boss monsters. A different staple is Lightning Storm, and I would argue that this is your most flexible spot in the entire deck. If you face a lot of Eldritch, you can play Harpy's Feather Duster. If you don't have a Lightning Storm and you want to focus, and you still want to focus on getting rid of creatures, you can play a Raigeki. Other options, of course, is Imperial Order. Vanity's Emptiness is also a possibility. You just have to be careful, because if they out your board under Vanity's Emptiness and you can't get anything back, you essentially just lose because you can't special summon yourself. If you don't have these three staples, cards that you could replace them with are Forbidden Chalice for Infinite Impermanence, works like a charm. Droll Lockboard instead of Ash. Different ghosts that you can also consider would be Ghost Ogre, for example, because if you do your entire combo and you still have an emergency teleport left, you can use it to get a Ghost Ogre onto the field, which is then a pop. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and destroy that card on the field. It's not a negate, though. You have to be careful. It is not a negate. It is only a pop. If I say only, it is already ridiculous because it's still pretty helpful. We can easily run Triple Pot of Desires because all of our cards are 3-ofs. And I'm not sure what there is else to say about the main deck. We play Called by the Grave to be able to combo through an Ash Blossom, for example. This is also something that you have to be careful of. Every single monster, especially, and if you play against Virtual World, you can use this knowledge if you didn't already know. Every single card in this deck can be Ash Blossomed, because all of them have an effect where you send a card from your deck to the graveyard. If we go into the extra deck, I will show you some cards that I personally really like to play. Other people don't. I will mainly focus on those, and I will try to explain why I play them. I really like the Ultimaya Tzolkin and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon combo because sometimes it's just not enough to get into VFD, and this is still a monster negate every single turn, and it's a 3000 Crystal Dragon. It can negate cards in hand, like hand traps, for example, as well. So Nibiru can't come down as soon as you make this. With the Ultimaya Tzolkin, I have to tell you that you need to be careful, because as soon as you have a Shenshen on board, you cannot make a Tzolkin because you don't synchro summon him. You send the cards to the graveyard, which Shenshen prevents because he banishes all cards that would go from the battlefield to the graveyard. Two other cards that I like to run are Geomathmech and Bamboozling. I really like the Geomathmech because it's a 3k beater that's unaffected by literally any card effect. If you play against something like Sky Striker and maybe even Eldritch, these cards are pretty much just auto-win because they need a card that's bigger than my GM tech. Even against Tribrigade, this is sometimes worth going into. Against Tribrigade, it's always better to go into VFD, but again, this is so much easier to make because if you revive a Lili with your Laolao, you can immediately go into the final Sigma and you don't need any more setup. What else? Yes, I like to play Fanfan over the M7 because Fanfan banishes 2 cards while M7 returns something to hand. M7 is really helpful if you play against a deck that focuses on bringing out huge fusion monsters or link monsters or Xyz monsters, mainly extra deck cards, but only temporary. I think a lot of people like to play the M7 over Fanfan or with Fanfan and they exclude a different package that I'm running simply because it can also be used as an extender by returning one of your monsters from the graveyard back to the hand. I usually find myself not needing that. And the last extra deck card that I see other people like to run would be Cloud Castle. It's pretty much only used to make VFD. I don't think I need it. Or I don't need it. I've played this deck multiple days in a row, have gone on multiple win streaks. So yeah, I usually, if I want to make VFD, I usually go Krakenaw into Vermillion, and on my way there, I can use the Vermillion effect if I go second to pop something from my opponent's side. If I don't, I just overlay into a True King of all calamities. Otherwise, it also works with a Crocodragon and a Lili or a Laolao that I have increased its level with a Chuche. Hopefully, there I will get some good games to properly show you what I mean, what I'm doing, and bring this further to you. I like to play one Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. Usually it's not really necessary to overlay it and then go into a Zeus because most of your effects don't need that, right? Like this already detaches too. So if we have the dragon, if you have the Gaia Dragon, we now have an Zeus again with 2 materials. The Bamboozling, be careful, he cannot be overlaid with Gaia Dragon. So if you use him once, he's just a unit on board, which isn't necessarily the worst, right? You can still overlay it with Zeus, and you can't use him yet unless you use the other effect of Zeus. And we literally can never activate Utopia Beyond. There is an OTK with Utopia Beyond and Stardust Charge Warrior. Again, maybe we will see it today, maybe we won't. We'll figure it out. And yeah, this is pretty much the entire deck. As I said again, I am currently sitting in, if it continues loading, Platinum 1, and we will do at least one game, and depending on how fast or slow that one game goes, oh my god, I'm dark. And I'm not saying that because I'm black. And depending on how good or bad that goes, we will continue with the second game. Obviously, if we end up in a grind match, I will not subject you to that. And again, this deck is prone to break. This is not particularly a great hand, but we can work with this. We need any starter, or this Virtual World requires at least 2 cards on the field. 2 cards. In this case, we use a Qinlong and a Lili. We will use this to get rid of a Chuche. And now we can get also rid of a monster. In this case, we will get rid of a Jiji. Because as soon as we use the Laolao, now here we have a decision to make. I can target the Lili, get rid of a Xuanwu, and then we can use this Xuanwu in our grave to also pitch the Qinlong. And I genuinely believe that that is a riskier play, but definitely a play that is worth it. Because now we can pitch this Xuanwu. I'm pitching this Xuanwu over the Qinlong because we will have a Qinlong in our grave anyways. And now we can special summon one monster to our field, namely the Jiji. We can activate this one. We could activate this one, it wouldn't do anything. What we can do though is that we can go into Shenshen, but again, if we go into Shenshen now, we can't make the Tzolkin later. I think at this point, it's pretty much safe to say that they do not have any interruption. So I will overlay into the Tzolkin, and then I have to set the Cult by the Grave, which again should be fine because it hasn't given them the opportunity to respond whatsoever. That allows us to activate our Ultimaya Tzolkin, getting us our Crystal Wing onto the field. We could have gone into the GM deck this game. The issue is we wouldn't have known what would have resulted out of that. And we could still do it if we wanted to. I'm going to revive the Laolao here because we have a non-tuner on the field. And we have to discard this qinlong. Now, we have two possibilities. We will not be using this qinlong, obviously, this turn. But we can either go into the Geomathmech or the Shenshen. I prefer going into the Shenshen, simply because it's less risky. We could also go into the Croc, draw another card, and then use the qinlong to get a Lulu. The issue is with Lulu, we could only get a Jiji. Like, we can only get this little dog here, so there's not really a benefit of doing that. So our end board will be a Crystal Wing with a Shenshen, which is genuinely not the worst. Now you can argue that I should have positioned this guy in defense position so that a Lightning Storm doesn't just completely wreck us, but I think this should be fine. Now what this board does, it is one monster negate with a Crystal Wing, and any card that enters from the field to the graveyard is banished instead. Any card, not just monsters. Of course, we can also negate any monsters that he activates in hand. And this is pretty much one of the weaker boards that we can make in this deck. Sadly, we didn't draw a Kauwloon to get a Chuche onto the field. We didn't draw a Lulu. Lulu is usually really important. We just didn't have the hand cards this turn. We could have gone into a Geomathmech instead. Discarded the Called by the Grave to the qinlong. It seems we're either playing against Drytron or Cyberdragon. Both use that. I don't think we are going to play against Cyberdark. Ooh, I didn't know it tells us that. Interesting. What else is there to look out for? I don't think there's necessarily anything. We see we are playing against Drytron. The card that we want to negate in this case is not Ava. It's the Herald that discards from the extra deck. So let's see what our opponent does. He has to be a bit careful because of the cards that he uses that are on the field will be banished. But yeah. Again, I have put hours into this deck. I have played Virtual World in real life. Ooh. And I decided to create it here as well. The only real upgrade that it gets is the VFD. Oh, and immediately goes into the Ritual Summon. Interesting. Getting rid of both Drytrons, Gamma and Alpha, and Draconesis. 4K beater. Your opponent cannot target this card with monster effects if the total level of ritual monsters. During your opponent's turn, you can banish monsters from your graveyard whose combined attack equals to exactly 2,000 or 4,000. Then target one face-up card your opponent controls for every 2,000 attack. Send the cards to the graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once would be insane. This is only during my turn, and he currently has 4, meaning he can send 2 of my monsters. Yep, we will lose, I think, 1,000 HP because the other thing isn't necessarily because I think the only smart play would be to attack over this. Drytron Alpha Thuban. I will activate this here because this means that this now gains 1,000 attack. And the attack is negated, which means that his only target that he can genuinely swing over. Am I missing something? Why did I not gain? Oh, if it is technically already destroyed because it's in the graveyard. Sad. Maybe I should have used Called by the Grave then. But this means that there is now another monster in his graveyard, which is the Herald of Perfection. That doesn't really matter for this, because its maximum is 4,000. And yeah, I should have used the Called by here, simply because I don't know what is in his hand. This is definitely not a loss. We still have a qinlong engraved, so regardless of what we are going to draw, it's going to be a Lulu. And we only need to make the Utopia Beyond to reduce this guy's attack power to 0, and that will essentially allow us to swing over him. Oh, it can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls once each. So we will lose a lot of health. It still doesn't really matter. Yeah, we will still get a Lulu, and we're definitely not dead. So he didn't. What? If the total level of monsters used for its ritual summon are 2 or less, and he surrendered. I assume it's a shame concede. What we would have done in this scenario is we would have used a qinlong to draw to discard whatever we were drawing. We get a Lulu. We use the Lulu on the qinlong to get a Laolao, which would then allow us to resummon a Lili, which makes DM7. Now we have, and we can revive the Shenshen from our grave. Now we have a Shenshen, a Lili, and DM7, which is 2,800 for the Shenshen, 1,600 for the Lulu, and 3,000 from the M7. It wouldn't necessarily would OTK our opponent, but his ritual monster would be in the grave. We still have a called by set, so there wouldn't really have been a lot that he was able to do. So we go again. Also, we still had his Xuanwu. I don't think there's anything that we could have done with that though. So yeah, because we were missing a hand card. This is the second game. I will be going first again. Usually you want to go first. This deck can easily play through boards because, again, pretty much all of its cards are starters. And the more cards you have, the better, meaning the more virtual world cards you have, the more interruptions you can play through. This is, again, not necessarily a great hand. We will start off by using the Pot of Desires. Let's see if we get absolutely destroyed by the Spanish. No, but it's also not good because, as you can see, we banished our only Xuanwu, we banished the Chuche and the qinlong, meaning that we will now only have one trap left in the deck, which obviously isn't very nice. I will use my emergency teleport to get a Lulu in this scenario, to special summon a Jiji, our cute little doggo. Okay, so we now know that he has something. Impermanence. That doesn't do anything. So I don't know what's happening. We are, or I am at least, in Platinum 1, as you saw. So I don't know why our opponent did that. Lulu currently has no effect on the field. Now we could have made the mistake to special summon the Stardust Charge Warrior right now, which would have just destroyed us. So I will do this first because if we go into the Stardust Charge Warrior, we can no longer special summon the Laolao. But I'm getting the Lili here first, and I will discard the second Laolao. We still have our normal summon. That's why I want to keep the second Jiji, because if need be, I can just use it as an extender with our normal summon. I will dump the qinlong, and I will sadly also have to get rid of our second Jiji, of our Chuche. This means that our endboard will not contain a Chuche, but this will allow us to go into the VFD quite easily. So we will make the Stardust Charge Warrior here. To draw a card. You could again make the Ultimaya Tzolkin. It's just 9 out of 10 times smarter and better to not. That's it. That's it. It's just 9 out of 10 times smarter to not do that. Now we will go into the Crocodragon, as I told you during the deck building or during the deck tech. We will revive a Jiji here. The plan is to go into the Crocodragon, draw another card, see what we will draw off of that other card. If we had a qinlong or a Chuche set, we would have also gotten a Nyannyan, which would have allowed us to go even further, but I think we will have to suffice with what we currently have. We have the Chuche, which will allow us to go into the VFD. We will increase the level, obviously, so otherwise we couldn't be making the VFD, and yeah. What I could have also done is, instead of reviving the Jiji, I could have revived the Lulu, Synchro into this here. And we will have to say pass. So there was apparently a slight misplay that I did, because again, I could have revived the Lulu using the Roshi, using the Laolao effect, to then go into the Crocodragon with our Stardust Charge Warrior, who's currently just sitting on the board for no apparent reason. That would have allowed us to then still have a Lili on a Laolao, sorry, still on the field, which would have allowed us to to normal summon the Jiji and let us go into the Shenshen. What I will be doing here is I will Google Life Twin, because I'm really uncertain what type they are. They are lights, so I will activate this in response. This will make it so, and we will unattach the Lili here, so that we can later on. Usually you want to unattach the virtual world monsters first, so that they can't, so that you can revive it with something like a Xuanwu or a Laolao. I activated it right now after he played a spell, because that means he can't chain an Imperm, for example, or Gamma, which would also be a replacement that you can play in this deck. For example, if you want to activate a Qinlong or a Kauwloon and he ashes it, that would help us greatly. I will use it to discourage him even more from link summoning. Also, I don't think there's a whole lot that we can get out of this right now. Okay, so this just burns us. It's a Rhoda that burns us. Okay. If we had something to pop it, you can pop continuous spells so that their effect doesn't resolve. If we are talking about continuous spells and spells in the field zone, they do need to be on the field as their effect is resolving for it to properly resolve. Otherwise, the effect will be negated. So in those circumstances, yes, MST negates. Anti-end phases. Okay. We have a Nyannyan here that's actually pretty much perfect. I will normal summon a Nyannyan. I will special summon the Lulu. We only have Kauwloons left in our deck, so there's nothing that we can particularly do here other than just spinning this. But this allows us to go into the Coral Dragon. And again, as you see, I completely misplayed here because I didn't use the Lili or the Jiji beforehand, meaning that now I can't special summon any of them. But this should help us to OTK our opponent. This was our 1, 2, 3, 4th summon. And the second special effect that a lot of people seem to forget is that Geomathmech deals double combat damage, meaning that if we attack into this unit here, he will not take 2,500, he will take 5,000, meaning that to not play into the Nibiru, we can literally just attack. I'm just checking what effect, and then we still have something left to do. We attack here, obviously, with the Geomathmech. He gains life points. So he isn't dead yet. He's on 500 health, sadly. Not really a whole lot that we can do against that, but we still have an activation left on our True King of All Calamity. We still have a Called By, and we still have a Maxx. There's not really a point in using the Qinlong here, because again, we can't special summon anyways. That was my bad. I completely could have made a way stronger board. We could have also special summoned the Jiji. We could have special summoned the Lili. We could have done a various number of things. I just didn't think far enough ahead, which this deck sadly punishes a lot. We will activate this again, naming Light. We want to name Light because otherwise it only negates things on the field. If we name Light, he also cannot activate any Light monsters effects in hand. That's why naming something like Water or Fire isn't necessarily helpful to you, because yes, it will negate everything on the field, but hand effects still work perfectly. If you think that you play against Tri-Brigade, you usually want to name Earth or Fire. Works as well. But otherwise, Light is your best bet. It stops Nibiru's, it stops Effect Veilers. So yeah. That is fine. Again, he can't activate any effects. He can link it off. This time around, I didn't. I will use Maxx right now. That's not an effect. That's literally just a statement. Fair enough. Oh yeah, Geomathmech is unaffected by card effects, meaning that this is still technically a fire monster. I don't think there's anything where it comes up, but yeah. No, he can link it off. He can do. I don't think there's a whole lot else he can do, because these aren't water monsters, especially now with the VFD. So here comes the link into the evil twin Lila, but she will not have an effect. So that is that. One Kiss a Kill. If we look into his graveyard, he has 2 Kiss a Kill monsters. He enters the combat phase, main phase, so apparently nothing for him to be done here. And I think we will just immediately go to combat. If we want to do anything, we can do that in our main phase too. We have 2 giant monsters with the called by on the field already. So whatever he targets with this, we will literally just call by. Does it not target? It doesn't target. Okay, so I actually have to read. You can special summon 1 Lilo monster from your hand or deck. And this reads... Okay, so we want to banish the normal Kiss a Kill. So that he doesn't get to special summon anything from his hand. He has a Solemn Judgment and he goes down to 250 HP, which literally doesn't matter. There is not a single monster in my deck that has less than 500 attack, and the 500 attack monster being Maxx. Roshi has 0. I'm sorry. Yeah, if we had a normal summoned Roshi, then we couldn't kill here. Continue the main phase. Sure. We can just normal summon a Jiji, which brings him back up, but again, that doesn't do anything. And I just punch. Final blow. He gains 500 and takes 3,800 damage. I hope this has shown you how Virtual World works, how I play it. Badly, apparently, with my misplays going on. If there are any questions, please tell me so. Nice, 15 gems. But if there are any questions, please tell me so in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you didn't like the video, please give a dislike actually, so that I know that there is something to improve. If you want to be more specific, you can always just tell me in the comments down below. If there are cards that you want me to try out in this deck list, I'd be more than happy to try them out, to give them a go. I will try to record more Master Duel content in general, different decks. I have looked through the community what other people like to play or what deck lists I've gotten from YouTube. I've tried to improve them. For some I still need some SRs and URs, so we'll see how fast I can publish those. But again, leave a like if you liked, leave a dislike if you disliked, and otherwise I'll see you next time. Bye.